and workforce development. This conference brings together educators, students, working professionals, and thought leaders locally and nationally to share ideas, discuss emerging issues, and network. It provides a great framework to gain new knowledge and professional development. And I am especially proud to say this conference was organized and sponsored by the University of Missouri St. Louis. We live in a world, as you know better than anyone, where cybersecurity's importance is on the rise. Our society is more technologically reliant than ever before, and there is no sign that this trend will slow. Personal data that could result in identity theft is now posted to the public on our social media accounts. Sensitive information like social security numbers, credit card information, and bank account details are now stored in cloud storage services. The fact of the matter is, whether you are an individual, business, organization, or government, you rely on computer systems every day. Pair this with the rise in cloud services, poor cloud security, smartphones, and the internet in general. We have myriad cybersecurity threats that didn't exist a few decades ago. So as companies, organizations, and governments large and small scramble to respond to these growing threats, jobs in the cybersecurity field are growing fast. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts that jobs for information security analysts will grow by 28% through 2026. That's more than twice as fast as the average computer-related occupation, and 4 times as fast as American jobs in general. Educational institutions are responding to the need for more technology and cybersecurity professionals. The University of Missouri St. Louis, for example, has more than 700 students enrolled in our computer science, computer technology, information systems, and cybersecurity programs. And I just see that number growing here and elsewhere as students increasingly understand the potential for entry-level and advanced jobs in an interesting field, an important field, and a well-paying field. The commitment from institutions such as the University of Missouri St. Louis also extends beyond the classroom and workforce development. We are actively engaged in industry-leading research, seeking solutions to improve technology and technology systems, to thwart identity theft and various other cyber crimes, and to create defenses against future attacks on critical infrastructure such as power stations and energy grids. I am particularly delighted to see this conference address the issue of equity and diversity, about bringing more women and minorities into our technology classrooms and advancing into the cybersecurity and other technology professions. We need to make everyone understand that cybersecurity is an important issue that is best addressed by diverse talent and by diverse work teams. Your efforts today can go a long way toward that goal. Congratulations to our cybersecurity teams in the departments of computer science and information systems and technology. The University of Missouri St. Louis is designated as a National Center of Academic Excellence in Cyber Defense Education by the NSA and DHS. This designation is due to the collaboration between these two departments that provides a strong and crucial interdisciplinary program for our students that leads to success in the classroom and out in the workforce. So thank you for allowing me these few minutes. Have a great conference. And I think I forgot to introduce myself, but I'm Kristen Sobolik, Chancellor at the University of Missouri St. Louis, and I hope you can see how proud I am of this cybersecurity team and that they have organized this for everybody today. So have a fantastic conference.
Thank you, Dr. Sobolik. We will now proceed with our keynote talk of today. Our keynote would be given by Professor Blair Taylor from Towson University. Uh, uh, Vijay, would you like to introduce the keynote speaker?
Sure. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Blair Taylor as our keynote speaker. She has 20 plus years experience in academics. She's also a national expert in cybersecurity education and curriculum development and has worked at the NSA's College of Cyber. She's currently an associate professor in Department of Computer and Information Sciences at Towson University. And she has been recognized with many awards in teaching at the University System of Maryland, as well as she has been recognized as one of the 50 women to watch by Baltimore Sun magazine. So with that, I give Dr. Blair Taylor the floor.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for inviting me. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. Let me go ahead and share here. Are we good?
We are good.
We are good. Good morning, St. Louis. I'm home in Towson, Maryland, which is right outside of Baltimore, and so wish I could be there. I wish I could see the arch, wish I could eat the toasted ravioli, but that's okay. Let's get ready for another Zoom meeting. So I'm at Towson, as I mentioned, teaching online since March, and my friends and family keep asking me the same question. How is that online teaching going? So I get to teach an 8 o'clock class, and 8 o'clock classes are challenging even when they're in person. But during COVID, they've taken a life of their own. Most mornings I see 25 names on a Zoom screen, but occasionally I see this. So yeah, ask me again. How's that online teaching going? It is awesome. So we're all struggling during these times, but again, I look forward to speaking to you. And the title of my talk is Open Your Mind to Cyber. And I chose that because since I started off in cyber years ago, the same question gets asked a lot. And the answer, the question is, what is the number one thing you can do to improve cybersecurity? And invariably, the answer is the same. And that is create a security mindset. I'm speaking to you today from Baltimore, Maryland, which is where Towson University is located outside of Baltimore. Towson is the second largest school in the University of Maryland system with over 20,000 students. And I'm in the Computer and Information Science department. And like your institution, we do a lot of cyber. We have a cyber operations program that's also been designated by the National Security Agency in cyber defense. We've also been designated in cyber operations, in which only 21 schools have received that designation. So I have a few ideas that I'd like to share that come from my years of teaching cyber, working in cyber education, and working with NSA and other schools across the country. But to be clear, I am not here to tell you that cybercrime is the greatest threat to every company in the world. I'm not here to tell you that cybersecurity continues to be a global crisis, costing companies billions of dollars. I'm not here to tell you that. I'm not here to tell you there's a hacker attack every 39 seconds. The numbers are staggering and scary, and the average time to identify a breach is 206 days. And the average cost to mitigate a malware attack takes 50 days. I'm not here to tell you that. I'm not here to tell you that in 2020, as the world's focus has shifted to the COVID-19 pandemic, hackers have not let up and they continue to wreak havoc across critical systems. All countries face threats to their critical infrastructure, including the electric grid, water supply, and transportation. I'm not here to tell you that Russia and China are capable of disrupting critical national infrastructure in the US, potentially bringing down the electric grid and crippling power companies for days to weeks. I'm not here to tell you that cyber warfare attacks can be conducted remotely, anonymously, and cheaply. The effects can be widespread. I'm not here to tell you that cybersecurity is the new battleground. I'm not here to tell you that we have moved beyond traditional warfare, which typically took place on land, sea, air, and space. I'm not here to tell you that cyberspace is now considered the fifth domain, or that although the 2020 national election was more secure than 2016, cyber attacks on elections remain an imminent national security threat. I'm not here to tell you that our dependence on information and telecommunication technologies is unprecedented since COVID-19. Phishing has increased an estimated 400% over the course of the pandemic. Emails are disguised to have information from the World Health Organization or the Center of Disease Control. They may pretend to have information about stimulus checks or include promise for travel reimbursement for canceled trips or unused gym memberships. I'm not here to tell you that COVID-19 has taken the cybersecurity issues from bad to worse, that 1 billion people are working from home. There's been a drastic increase of internet users, from students, teachers, government workers to private sector employees and politicians. Businesses of all types are scrambling to provide access for all, and cybersecurity professionals have been pulled off of security jobs to address this priority. The global pandemic has exposed new cracks in organizations' cyber defenses. I'm not here to tell you that cyber is the other pandemic. I am here to tell you that the Department of Homeland Security has said that securing critical infrastructure is a shared responsibility, shared by federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial governments, private companies, and individual citizens. Cybersecurity is a shared responsibility in our everyday lives. Cybersecurity is everybody's business. I am here to tell you something many of you already know. While COVID has caused record numbers of unemployment worldwide, there's a huge growing shortfall of cyber talent. There's a lack of skilled workers worldwide in cyber, and by 2021, it's projected there will be 3.5 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs globally. And while that's a well-known fact, I'm also here to tell you of a lesser known fact. There's an acute shortage of cybersecurity faculty. We hear a lot about the shortage of workforce in cybersecurity, but the problems of finding qualified instructors in the field has not been well understood. While schools of all levels struggle to find qualified instructors to teach cyber, it's a bit of a chicken and egg problem. The lack of cybersecurity doctoral programs means a subsequent small number of cybersecurity PhDs, which is a requirement to teach at many institutions. Additionally, those trained in cyber don't typically choose positions in academia, but instead pursue jobs in industry, which is higher paying, or government. Schools are struggling to grow their cyber programs, but lack the faculty to staff them. We mentioned the diversity problem. I'm here to tell you that cybersecurity has a diversity problem. I look around my classes today, and the students in my cyber classes are primarily male. There's few female students, although there's a lot of efforts in this area. And my friend, Dr. Ambereen Siraj, will be speaking after me and addressing the ongoing efforts there. Minorities, including Black and Hispanic students, are severely underrepresented as well. Much of the diversity problem in cybersecurity is inherited from computer science. This may come as a shock to you, but there's a stereotype that CS students and CS professionals are nerds. And there's a significant amount of research that this culture of geeks deters many students, both male and female, from pursuing CS or cybersecurity. Currently, females and minorities are severely underrepresented in cyber as they are in computer science, which is a critical problem because cyber needs diverse teams. Cyber is complex. In order to come up with comprehensive and effective cybersecurity solutions, we need teams that include a cross-section of ages, gender, culture, and ethnicity. We need diverse teams to solve cyber. This is mission essential. I'm here to tell you that cyber is new, and we don't even have a good definition of cyber. The Webster Dictionary lists cyber as anything pertaining to computers, yet we use cyber interchangeably to mean cybersecurity. Remember that computer science is also new. Cyber and CS are relatively new disciplines, especially compared to biology, math, and English. When I did my undergraduate work at Johns Hopkins University, there was no computer science major, and certainly no cybersecurity program. So since I've been teaching for many years and working many years in cyber and in the cyber education space, including working with the National Security Agency on various programs that are working to build and develop the cybersecurity workforce to help protect the nation and its infrastructure, I'd like to share some of my thoughts. In my experience teaching hundreds of students, thousands, I find students like cyber. It piques their interest. They listen more. They want to learn more. Many other professors I talk to find the same thing. Some students like to learn about hacking or intrusion detection or forensics. Many students are very interested to learn about cyber warfare or privacy. I find many girls love secure coding. Some students like the psychology involved in social engineering and adversarial thinking. Some students are interested in cyber law or ethics or history. Bottom line, students like cyber, and not just geeky white males. Cybersecurity is everybody's business. All students need to learn cyber. All digital citizens need to adopt a security mindset. Bottom line, in order to solve the cybersecurity crisis, all students need to learn cyber. Cybersecurity is not just about technology. It involves communication, risk management, diplomacy, geopolitics, psychology, so many things. Cyber is not just for cybersecurity majors, not just for computer science, not just for engineering majors. It's important for business, health, finance, etc. Every field is impacted by cyber. I believe that to education, cybersecurity is a game changer. We can capitalize on the inherent interest students have in cyber. We can use cyber to make things more interesting. In my programming classes, I find that integrating cyber, including topics such as integer overflow, can help me to teach binary arithmetic and data types, typically a pretty dry topic, at least to students. I use terms such as all input is evil when discussing input validation to motivate students to code securely. Because many students like cyber, cyber can draw more diverse students to computer science, help us solve the diversity problem. Many other efforts in computer science, such as gaming or artificial intelligence and machine learning, often attract more of the same. Not that this is a bad thing, but it doesn't help with our diversity problem. Let's talk about the state of cybersecurity education today. There are many solid efforts. We've mentioned the designations by the National Security Agency in cyber defense. There's approximately 330 institutions that are designated. There's over 3,000 colleges and universities across the country, so this is a start. There's also the National Science Foundation has the Scholarship for Service program, which awards scholarships to students who choose to study cyber, and then they work for a year in a federal or state agency. But meanwhile, many schools are scrambling to create programs, even though they lack faculty. They're adding new courses, majors or minors in cyber, primarily inside a computing department. Many of the new courses are upper level. Many of the courses are elective and for majors only, meaning some computing students still graduate with no exposure to cybersecurity or secure coding. And most college or university graduates have no cyber at all. The current state of cybersecurity education is too little, too late. So how can we change the game? I have some thoughts on changing the game for cybersecurity education. To address the issue where academia teaches too little, too late, let's teach security early and often. Let's talk about often, which is security across the curriculum. This is mostly my dream, but let me start by asking a question. Is cybersecurity, think about it, is cybersecurity multidisciplinary, which means people from different disciplines working together, each drawing on their disciplinary knowledge? Or is it interdisciplinary, integrating knowledge and methods from different disciplines using a real synthesis of approaches? The answer? Both. Cyber needs to be taught across disciplines, across the entire curriculum. Let's talk about teaching cybersecurity early. Let's start with CS, computer science. One of my recommendations for teaching cyber is to teach secure coding. We want students to think about secure coding in the first programming class, not after they have learned to code. For students in many programming classes, their first program outputs the classic hello world. Why not include security? Teach students to code responsibly. I will talk about a project I worked on to help teach secure coding shortly. One of my other thoughts on teaching cybersecurity early is to teach principles. Principle-based learning is often effective, and that's one of the takeaways you take from a course. You remember the principles. We all remembered Newton's law of physics. There's rules in algebra. Biology has principles and theories. Some are well-defined, some are not. I spent 3+ years working at NSA as a contractor, and one of the projects I worked on was developing a set of principles that could be used in the Gen Cyber program. Gen Cyber is a program that offers free summer camps that teach cybersecurity to K-12 students and teachers across the country. Most summers there are pre-COVID, there are over 100 Gen Cyber camps offered all across the country. I worked with this program to develop a set of principles or concepts that could be taught in these camps. We came up with the concept of the Gen Cyber hand. The Gen Cyber hand includes 6 different principles, one for each finger and one for the palm. Let's start with the first 3 fingers. Many of you have heard of the CIA Triad. Together, these 3 principles form the cornerstone of any organization's security program. The CIA Triad includes confidentiality. It's crucial in today's world for people to protect their sensitive private data from unauthorized access. Integrity means the data is protected from unauthorized changes to ensure that it's reliable and correct. And availability means that authorized users have access to systems and resources they need. The CIA Triad is a well-known concept in cyber and can be used to help people develop and establish their security infrastructure. Let's take the next finger. Think like an adversary. One of the fundamental security concepts is adversarial thinking. Who's the attacker? What is their motivation? Teaching students to put themselves in the mind of an attacker can include forming teams and role-playing. We can teach students how to outthink their component. This allows us to protect our systems and by adopting the thinking process of the hacker. Can you understand why we need diverse teams to come up with these different ideas? The 5th finger is defense in depth. In defense in depth, a series of defensive mechanisms are layered in order to protect valuable data and information. If one mechanism fails, another steps up immediately to thwart an attack. This multi-layered approach with intentional redundancies increases the security of a system as a whole and addresses many different attack vectors. It's commonly referred to as the castle approach because it mirrors the layered defenses of a medieval castle. Before you can penetrate a castle, you're faced with the moat, the drawbridge, the guards, the towers, etc. So we've discussed the 5 fingers. Let's talk about the hand, which is the palm. And the final concept is keep it simple. The more complex a security system is, the less likely we are to take full advantage of available features and to apply policies consistently. An endpoint security solution that emphasizes simplicity not only saves you time and effort, it also greatly reduces your risk of misconfiguring the solution settings. This is not to be confused with the common acronym, keep it simple, stupid. One major recommendation that I generally give to schools asking how they can improve cyber is that I believe the single most significant change any school can do to improve their cybersecurity education is to add an introductory cybersecurity course. The next biggest thing is to require all computing students to take it. And if you really want to make a difference, make it a graduation requirement for every student. I believe adding such a course is the single most effective step a school can do to improve cyber education. To summarize my recommendations for changing the game in cybersecurity education, I recommend we teach cybersecurity across the curriculum, across all courses, across all majors, starting with the first computing course. I recommend we teach secure coding. We teach cybersecurity principles. And best of all, teach cybersecurity principles and concepts by adding an introduction to cybersecurity course and require it of all students. Let's teach cyber. So you're wondering, how do I do that? I need resources. To teach cyber, I need many resources and I need them all in one place. Meet CLARK. CLARK actually stands for Cybersecurity Labs and Resource Knowledge Base. CLARK is your hero. I started working on CLARK as part of the National Cybersecurity Program, a program started by the National Security Agency to address the cyber crisis and more specifically, the cyber workforce shortage. The cyber faculty shortage takes time and requires long-term solutions. Providing cyber curriculum resources is an immediate solution. Everybody's asked to teach cyber. NCCP funded over 50 colleges and universities to produce quality assured cybersecurity curriculum. CLARK is the platform that provides one-stop access to this curriculum. It includes over 780 learning objects and includes 3,000 registered users, and that is rising greatly during COVID as more faculty are searching for resources to include in their courses. CLARK includes courses and modules, but we subdivided modules into nano modules, which are less than an hour, micro modules, which take a student approximately 1 to 4 hours. And we classify each module as a learning object, which takes 4 to 10 hours. Many of the learning objects include videos, which is very helpful in the current learning environment, and they're all 508 compliant, which is particularly important as we struggle to make our material accessible to students with disabilities. All modules in CLARK are quality assured and have been gone through a very strenuous review process. Free cybersecurity curriculum, really. In this project that I talked about teaching secure coding, this project is over 10 years old and it's called Security Injections. It includes modules for teaching for CS0, CS1, and CS2 in a variety of languages that can be injected into your courses with little or no effort. Each module takes about 20 minutes and is automatically graded and produces a certificate upon completion that can be submitted by the student directly to any platform such as Blackboard. I typically assign 3 to 4 security injections per semester. Additionally, there's a program called Splash, which is for high school girls. I taught them how I would like to be taught. No complex, unsolvable projects, lots of programming taught in a methodical, understandable way, emphasizing the importance of security. And they did a final project at the end where they did use their creative skills to explore a topic in software security. Girls who like logic like secure coding. Which brings me to my third and final thought. Cybersecurity makes a difference. This is a way that you can serve your country. You can make a more secure world. It's a noble mission to work towards making cyberspace safer and more reliable. It's not a political, it's not, regardless of your party. One thing I always try to remind us as we're in the world of cybersecurity is important work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Blair. Just wanted to a couple of questions I'm seeing from some attendees. I would start with my own question first. Do you think cybersecurity education like today, is it ready for like a general education kind of offering the way there, courses in general writing and reading are offered? Do you think cybersecurity is ready as a general education course today?
I think that cybersecurity should be a part of the general education. I think that we can't solve the problem unless everybody's involved in cyber. It's not just a technology problem. So because the problem is so important and because we need so many different thoughts and fields, I believe that not only is it ready, it has to be. So I think that an intro to cyber class or some type of offering should start off and then should probably be required.
Another question is, what suggestion you have for students who are looking towards cybersecurity, but kind of, there are people who kind of get turned away from programming and coding. What advice would you have for them?
Well, there's many different areas. I mean, there's a lot of policy is involved with cyber. There's a lot of psychology, as I mentioned before. They're increasingly finding that it's not just, as I said, not just a technology problem. And that's actually, I mentioned the Scholarship for Service as a program that National Science Foundation offers to bring more people to the federal government and state agencies in cyber. And that is expanded beyond just technology programs. And there are several programs that are very policy based. So if you're interested in law, there's a great need for cyber there. So the legal community is very behind in terms of cyber. It's not the community itself, but the laws, because many of the people who write laws don't understand technology. They're not usually, those fields don't usually go together. So we need cyber experts to come to these fields, help with policy and law, et cetera.
We have a question from one of the attendees. Nick is asking, I'm a senior now, and what's the best way for me to jump on the cyber train? So it looks like Nick is considering cyber as a major.
Awesome. Well, find a school that has a good cyber program. If you're a senior, even though it's not all technology, that is certainly where most of the programs lie right now. So if you want to study cyber, most of the programs start off in the computer science department. That's starting to change. But look at the schools that have strong cyber programs. We mentioned, and your institution is one of them, the CAE designated schools. The CAE designated schools have been recognized by the NSA as schools that have quality cybersecurity programs. So look at schools that have that. The scholarships that I mentioned are generally the last 2 years of college. So you can look for schools that have scholarships, that's called the Cyber Core program. And again, those are generally the last 2 years. So I would look for start by looking at the CAE schools and looking at the SFS schools. I'm assuming you're asking me about where to go in college. And the other thing is that I mentioned the Gen Cyber programs. There hopefully will be some Gen Cyber camps offered this summer. That's another good way. These are all free. Check out your local area or look all over the country to see if there's a Gen Cyber camp that you might want to participate in. This has really sparked interest for a lot of students in the world of cybersecurity.
Right. We have one of the questions from attendees came. It's in terms of cybersecurity skills. This is a question from Mary. She's asking, what are the most important top 5 technology skills would you recommend to be able to enter the cybersecurity workforce?
A workforce. Well, I mean, that very much depends upon where you are going. What I will tell you that in my work with industry, they don't see a lot of people majoring in cybersecurity yet. So they are looking at the technical people. But increasingly, programs such as your program at University of Missouri St. Louis has a cyber program. So having that cyber degree is going to make you stand out from other graduates, because so many schools are still struggling to catch up or offer cyber programs. And as I mentioned, the faculty shortage, this is a really challenging problem. So you can look at one thing you can do is you can look at the NICE workforce framework, and that maybe see what type of job you think you might want to do, and then that will then go backwards to what skills would be required there. Because again, it runs the gamut. You might be interested in cyber operations or cyber defense, or there's many other aspects of cyber, such as cryptography and things like that are going to be, it's a very diverse field. So I would look at that workforce framework, see if there's a job area that is of interest to you. And then my second piece of advice would be to go to a school that has a very strong cyber program. And that will make you stand out when you go to apply for a job.
Vijay, do you have any questions for Blair?
Yeah, so one question I have is cybersecurity at the university is definitely a good thing to have, but what can we do to incorporate cyber in the high schools as well as in the middle schools? Means right now everybody is on, at least majority of the students in that area, they are online. They potentially are a target of attack. The surface area is increased. How can we generate this awareness? I understand there are Gen Cyber camps, but I think we have to go even beyond that to generate this awareness.
So, right. And this is a tough one because it varies by state. I've worked with K through 12, and I always call K through 12 a very deep well, because there varies by state, varies by county. I always believe that a principle-based approach is good. This idea of a security mindset, teaching students important concepts, from early ages. That's what the Gen Cyber Hand is geared towards, that think about their privacy. At older ages, to think them about thinking like an adversary when they defend a system, defense in depth. These concepts are concepts that can really take you from beginning stages to end stages. So I think my major advice would be to take these principles, which apply for anything, and if you're an instructor, try to pick the principles that you can then impart to your students and build on them as we go. In the high school, secure coding is extremely important. We don't do nearly enough of that. We teach programming, but we don't talk about how to program securely. Instead, we teach it after the fact. So building that security mindset in from a very early stage, just teaching things like a simple concept like defense in depth can really help a student. Most students can understand that at a very, very low level. And then, we are building resources. Clark does have resources for more towards the high school, but there is more and more work being done at the K-12, and getting those resources out, getting good quality resources out to help the faculty to teach these concepts. Does that answer your question?
Sure. Another question I have is when we talk about cyber, community colleges also play a very important role because a lot of students, they do go to community colleges, and that also feeds into the 4-year degrees, as well as they feed into industry. So what topics or what challenges do we see in community college education?
So community colleges are typically ahead of the game. They're more agile in being able to adapt to the challenges. So they've had cyber programs for a very long time, really before the 4-year schools. The challenge is that many of the programs developed at this community college don't transfer as well as they should to the 4-year schools. So if, for example, you choose to go to a community college and you do a network technology degree, that you're going to struggle to find a 4-year institution that's going to have the next 2 years that'll align well with that program. So look carefully if you choose to do a community college, which I strongly recommend, because these are very good ways, especially during times now where we're going to school from home. It's a way to save money. Again, these schools are very agile. They can respond to the cyber needs. But be very careful as a student, if you do wish for the 4-year degree, that you make sure that the programs align. And most of the 4-year programs align better with the computer science major than they do with the security major. We're working on improving that. And you can maybe talk how it is in your state, but in our state, we are, the best alignment is with the computer science. We at Towson have an IT program that does align well with some of the cybersecurity 2-year programs, but many schools do not have such a program. You have an IT program, correct, Vijay?
Yes.
So just watch very carefully if you're interested in the 4-year degree to make sure that whatever program you choose to start at the community college does have a good pathway to the 4-year.
Okay. I think there is a, I think we have a question about which subjects are better for masters in cybersecurity, from a audience member, from our attendees. Do you have any, especially when you specialize and you specialize with masters, what is a better path, or is there any better path?
Well, again, it depends a little bit where you did what your undergraduate degree is in. There are beginning to be more master's programs in outside of just purely technical, but most of the master's programs start off pretty technical, either with a network security base. Cyber almost started with networking, and it's really growing from there. It started off with the networks, and now there's more programs that you can do that may have an emphasis on secure coding or may have an emphasis on quantum cryptography. These are just, they're kind of piecemeal throughout the country. So this is another place where I would tell you to look at the SFS program, because the SFS program is over half of those are master's programs. And this means that you could get your master's degree for free, and then you would then serve, work in a government, some type of government position for each year you received the scholarship. So that would be a really good place to look. I'm not sure exactly what what the question is, but again, I would emphasize that the SFS program has quite a few master's degrees, and that's called CyberCore, and that's sponsored by the National Science Foundation.
One other question I have is, there is a shortage of faculty, especially in cyber, and the degrees also. So to teach cybersecurity, we have degree issues because some of the degrees might not typically align with cyber. And if you have a degree in computer science, it is considered as cyber, but not all the time. So what can universities do to address this challenge?
Well, I talked quite a bit about that, in that this is a huge problem, and it's a joke in our community that you go to a conference and they say, who's hiring cyber faculty, and everybody raises their hand. And one person said, I needed two, I hired one, now I need 4. The need just keeps growing. It's really difficult to fill. And I think this is, more of a problem now, even with immigration issues and travel issues. So, this is going to be I think the one thing you can do is maybe advertise this problem a little bit. Every time I mentioned this at a conference and I talked to industry people, they had no idea this was a problem. We talk so much about the workforce problem. We don't talk about the faculty shortage, only within ourselves. And then, in my opinion, since we can't solve this problem tomorrow, we need resources. So we help the faculty that oftentimes a faculty who wasn't a cyber expert is tasked with teaching cyber. So resources such, I'm a big proponent of sharing quality resources to help faculty get up to speed. There's also faculty workshops. We can't solve this problem immediately. So those would be my recommendations.
Thank you.
So
Again, I would like to quickly remind all the participants, if you have any questions for our keynote speaker, please post it in the Q&A section. We will try our best to have as many answered.
I can read few questions from the audience, actually, that they have been asked.
Please.
and Amberine has been nice answering those questions, but we can ask again to Blair. Maybe she has a different opinion. So we have one attendee. Her name is Isra Omran. She's saying, "Hello, what advice you can give for teaching security for non-CS students?"
Okay, so some of the concepts that I talked, hi, first of all, some of the concepts I talked about work really well with students, like adversarial thinking. You can break your students up into teams and try to just give them basic problems. Like, you know, one problem I give I teach an intro to cyber class, and many of those students are not majors. And I say, okay, let's say we're protecting the infrastructure at our institution. Who would want to break in here? And we do a lot of teams, role playing, think about who the adversaries are. So again, a little bit back to that principle-based teaching. You're going to find that there's certain topics that really students are very, very interested in. And one of those, for example, cyber warfare. Who do we consider the US adversaries? So I think like integrating that into other courses, such as history, kind of sparking their interest all along. I find that students are, I mean, I'm just always shocked by how interested they are. So there's so many areas of cyber that are interesting. I guess try to push on those and use the principles as a sort of a cohesive component to that. And again, finding good resources. On Clark, for example, this is all free, so I don't get paid. On Clark, there is a series of videos on our adversaries, and they're excellent. You can use them in your classes. There's exercises with them, and you can use one or you can use multiple, but these are useful to include as well. So find good resources and try to push the buttons that you're going to find there's a lot of buttons that students really like.
I think नहीं करो वैसे भी.
Okay, so we have another question from Abby. She's saying, what accommodations are offered in cyber to help students with disability learning disorders? I guess this is.
Yeah, I don't know if I have an answer to that. It's going to all depend upon the organization that, I mean, this is a challenge. I mean, you know, cyber attackers are looking for weak points, and we're trying to make our systems secure. It often makes them difficult to use. So it's a little bit of we are working more and more, all the resources the government uses have to be 508 compliant. And that's true of their systems, that's true of resources, but you cannot be sure of that in other environments as well. I think one of the things that will help is if we include more diversity in cyber, and then we can, I mean, one of the problems is that many of our systems have been designed by, not just cyber, but computer systems have been designed by a very singular group, specifically white males, for example. So adding diversity to those teams, not just diversity of gender, diversity of age, diversity, you know, learn how your learning style is. This will help us do better at solutions, at products, et cetera. So I encourage students of any ilk to consider entering this field to help us with the solution.
Blair, just this one last question I have. There was this talk about, you know, fostering adversarial thinking, something similar to computational thinking. What suggestions do you have for, you know, how do you, you know, encourage that kind of mindset among students studying cybersecurity, or do you have any suggestions for faculty to foster adversarial thinking through their courses?
Well, I do have two suggestions. And typically we do this exercise pretty early, and we do a lot of, like I said, teamwork. We do a lot of go off and think and like come up with ideas. You really have to push them initially. You have to push them to think outside the box. They say in cyber, you don't think outside the box, there is no box. So, you know, you encourage students like, how would you break this? What would you do if you're going to break it? And then the second thing, so that is that idea that you can do a lot of role playing, a lot of teams, a lot of case studies. The second thing that I use to teach my students is I use the cyber kill chain. And that is a model that takes the class through the entire sequence of events that happens for an attack. And this includes social engineering, this includes defending, and basically it talks about finally to becoming a persistent threat inside of a system. Most cyber attacks we don't know about, and the best cyber attack is one where the hacker enters the system and nobody knows they're there. That's the best cyber attack. So using the cyber kill chain and stepping them through and using that as a teaching mechanism, I find really helpful too, because I use case studies. There's a case study I use in my class about the electric grid and the attack that occurred in 2017 that we found out about after the fact. So using these case studies, aligning that to the cyber kill chain, role playing, doing these team-based scenarios, a lot of independent work, and I always think it's good. Independent work combined with working in pairs and working with diverse teams helps bring out thought. You really learn. I know everybody in this panel has been in a team where are so amazed at what other people think of, and the more you have a group, you can encourage that different types of solutions, different types of problems. So those are things that I use in my classroom.
Thank you, Blair. Thanks a lot. We really appreciate it for the excellent talk and answering all these questions from both us and the attendees today.
Thank you.